There is a dream of the time when the world will stretch forth its hand to seek the spirit of the Indian nation. It is in anticipation of this time that we will prepare our gifts. We will show all who would learn the language of the soul, the rightness of nature in which nothing is out of place. They will learn of a dimension of existence which has long been lost, where the very dust under our feet is conscious of the sympathetic touch of our footsteps. For the soil is rich with the lives of our kindred. When the time comes, our brothers will seek to know the strength of our people. Our hearts will once again dance with the pride of long ago. Because the Great Spirit would have it, we will give freely, as we did in past times. In beauty, the circle will be complete.
This land, Walpole Island, is our land. It has been Indian land since time immemorial. It is one of the oldest Indian reserves in Canada. The Algonquins lived here in the 1600s. And in the 1800s, we were joined by the Ottawas and the Potawatomis from the United States. We're descendants from these three tribes. 200 years ago, we lost about 4 million acres of land to the government in exchange for some silk handkerchiefs, tobacco, and whiskey. And we received about a penny an acre for our land. For many years we were governed by Indian agents. We were not considered to be a legal people. We could not celebrate our festivals or wear our native dress or even have any say in our government. In 1965, when I was chief of Walpole Island, we kicked out the last of our Indian agents. We still have 50,000 acres of our ancestral land, water and marshes. This land that provided a livelihood for our ancestors still provides food for us, and I am sure it will provide food for our future generations.
Walpole Island is fortunate that we're blessed with both human and natural resources. But I think our story is similar to other reserves, that they've had the same pressures. We've been first in a number of projects in Canada on Indian reserves, and it's not so much being the first, it's being able to do it ourselves and being able to have a successful project and to build upon those. We've been first to really, this research office, I think, is one of the first, and we've been one of the first to have a historical conference on an Indian reserve. Our first for a day nursery on an Indian reserve in Canada was a first. We were one of the first bands in Canada to go under the self-government formula. But it's the approach and the methods that we took to achieve those accomplishments, and I think those methods can be applied to any community. Walpole Island it's the southernmost reserve in Canada, but it also is an island, and that means a lot. means that we're separated from the outside world, so to speak, and it means that we've been a bit sheltered. It has been an advantage in that we've been able to retain a lot of our culture, that the pressures and the impact from the outside to our people and our environment has, we've been able to put up barriers, but we've also been able to deal with those pressures internally and to make our reserve progress. I have formal university training from the States. I've got archival research training from the Smithsonian Institution in Washington, D.C. But my real education came, and it's still ongoing, as being part of this community.
The picture of leadership we've had so often in the past, and perhaps it's been perpetrated from outside of our communities, is the Indian person, the chief, riding into battle by himself. I think that's the worst thing you want to do. It's the last thing I would want to do. I want people to be involved, and not only be involved, but to know why they're going, where they're going, and what they're going to do when they get there. I think that's what a leader has to project to those people, and they have to be a part of that decision-making process that decides they're going to go in the first place. If they aren't, there's going to be no commitment when you get there. And it's something that I've learned in sessions and workshops, and also the practical experience that I've had, both traveling and also in workshop settings.
Well, when Bill was first elected chief of the island here, I was, well, a very shy person. And he started going to different meetings, and I figured I'd go with him and you know, see what it was all about. And he wanted me, he says, well, just be with me and smile, eh? So I thought, well, you know, you hear different political people and their wives speak, and I thought, well, hey, I can do that. I can do that just as well as they can. And our church had a seminar, and he had different seminars in his meetings, and I decided to go, and I think this seminars really brought out the real me. You know, I'm not just a dumb Indian, as I would say, but I can, you know, just as good as anybody, and I think, you know, be yourself and, you know, speak out. Get involved, you know, get involved with different areas, and you'll get to meet a lot of new people. Just shaking their hand just lets them know that you care. And you just see them different, and they see you different. You're not just stuck in a corner over there as a chief's wife, but you're a human. And they look at you as a human being. I've got something to look forward to. And it's amazing. It really amazes me because, you know, when you get out of your shell, you find, hey, there's a new life. You know, look what you're missing.
In my search to find it, I hadn't realized that what I had really wanted was here on this reserve. It was amongst my people. I went out searching for it in books and cities and was never comfortable there. There was something inside missing. So I had to find out what it was. I had to come back home. Because language is the base, it's the foundation of any culture. That is probably what I had felt I was missing. I would feel self-conscious when I'd hear other tribes and their kids and their young adults and teenagers and speaking Indian, and I'd feel out of place there. I have come back to the reserve and have started on my own personal language instruction with my grandfather. He's getting up in years, and so he's welcomed me back, really. I think he knew what I was looking for all along, but such that he is, and such that I remember him. He just let me go as far as I did to see if I could find it myself, when he knew the answer was right here to begin with. I didn't need to go searching all over the place. And it's always been here.
And what else you want to talk about?
Did you stuff some birds?
Huh?
Did you stuff some birds?
No, I never stuffed a bird.
You didn't? You know how?
I don't know
Grandma?
how. Huh?
Grandma?
Oh, I don't think so.
Uh-oh.
What happened now? That's that deer fly again. They really bite those things. Step on it. Oh, you jump away in time.
Watch over there.
Yeah, it's a big boot.
That's a man ago, of course.
My dad?
Eh.
Well, Cognignago, my dad, that's the one to learn me.
Well, that's a man now, you got a Cognignaya.
Well, it's but that Cognignago.
Well, down in the Magnico.
Me now, Cogniga to come on, yeah. Everything what I want, you give it to me.
Yeah.
And I got to listen. Whatever they say, it's a go. My time. Me not the swan much at Bkejwanong. Come here, get close to bed. So I went. Little tobacco, chewing. Hand it to me. This is no good, kid. Don't use them. Can I get in with everything? God's way. He said, don't you give up. Take it where I am. He said, I'm just going with you just tonight. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock, I'm going. So on when the time comes, I go. No, nothing to. He was ready all the time. He always tell me. They never forget. We went before we eat. Yeah, they learned me pretty good. And I'm holding it yet.
My great-great-grandmother told me that never criticize anyone because you do not know what's ahead of you the coming days. I had a difficult time to bring my son because my first husband left us when he was 13 years old. So I worked. Then I met some friends and come on, let's go, we'll go over there. And like anybody else, I went through up and down in drinking and smoking and so forth. But as William and I were alone, I thought I should quit drinking and put bread and food on our table. So that's what I did. And I really take a pride in what I did. It was rough, but I kept my boy in school, and I'm very proud of him. Pride.
I don't know what to do.
We went through a meeting and asked the committee and chief and council if we could get together and look at developing some sort of philosophy of education and making a policy statement on what we'd like to see education in Walpole. So what we did was we went through a meeting and put a whole paragraph together of what education should be. So we took the same policy statement and just tore it right apart and come up with two things. And the two things were like,
We just said our children are our future. And that's our philosophy of education, basically. And that's our policy statement, that these kids someday are going to grow up to be leaders of this community. And we want to ensure that they got the skills and the ability to go out and work in the world after reserve, as well as come back and work on reserve and make sure that Walpole Island be here for eternity.
Given to me, I feel the freedom to see my own Indian people, what it's like to live with them on a reserve. And looking back at some elders, how their way of life was once. And some of my elders used to tell me stories, and I thought, I just sat back and wondered where it all went, all the beauty in that. And some of my elders said now it's garbage compared to what it was back then. And I just wish that we would, as young people, figure out the way it was back then and understand it.
See, to Indian people, well, my knowledge of what I know here at my, my reserve, is that children are everything to us. They're just like the past, the here and now, and the future. And if you don't take care of those things, how are you going to ever have anything? And the better you take care of the now, the better the future will be. And the more love and caring you have for them, it's just like if we planted a garden over there in anywhere here, and we put the seeds in and we just took off on a vacation for 2 months, and when we came back, what would we have? We wouldn't have much, a pile of weeds maybe. But I think the fruit or whatever we planted, the tomatoes or whatever, would be overcome. I'll be dancing with my son Michael, and 5 of my grandchildren will be dancing, and I got 4 more will be dancing, joining us next spring. We'll be getting their outfits ready all this winter. And my 2 daughters, well, my 1 daughter Lorna and my son Michael and myself make all the clothes. We design and bead and everything. It brings us together as a family. See, I've seen 5 generations with my grandfather, and my grandmother used to dress like I dress today, and I never dreamed I would be dressing like that either, eh? And the first time I went up to dance, I knew I would dance forever. I knew I had come home. The beat of the drum, it told me that I was here. In all my life, I wanted to belong someplace. It seemed like I just never belonged anywhere.
The drum makes you feel that.
Mm-hmm. It gives me peace, and it represents so much. It represents unity for me. It doesn't make no difference if I had a misunderstanding with somebody. When that drum beats, I have to forgive everyone. And it's taught me a lot, and it's still teaching me. It's teaching me how to be a grandmother. It's teaching me how to help my own family. And these things I never knew before. I didn't know how to be a parent or a grandparent or anything like that. But I must be doing something right, because all my grandkids love me, and I love them. But first of all, I had to learn to love them. I didn't know how. I used to look at them and I said, oh my gosh, what a way of life you're going to have. Because I could recall my life, eh? And I said, well, what helped me? And is that, again, love of self. So I says, well, if I am if I am who I say I am, I have to produce that love in order to nurture it like that garden. We planted the seed, God planted those seeds, and I have to be there to nurture them for their sake and my sake. and for their community wherever they're going to be. And to me, that's a wonderful feeling to be part of nature, harmony, everything in God's creation, and that's what I'm all about, and what we're all about, I think, in my opinion, anyway.
The white men having a hard time changing our life. Our people weren't dependent on the government. They had everything. They weren't sick like they are today because they had the medicine. We had the best of medicine men. Now they're disappearing. We got white men now. We got a doctor. So our only solution now today is to get our children education, to come up like the rest of the non-Indian, learn the things they learn, what they have, so we could use it. That's the important part of our life today, education. Educate our children, our grandchildren, and not to forget our culture.
I guess I began to see changes when the council decided that anyone in the community could go to any workshop they desire, as long as the community was putting it on. And that's when I began to see a lot of growth, that our people wanted more education. And one of the offshoots of that desire for education is the RNA program. And that's a very successful program. We're producing qualified people that will either work on a reserve or work out in a community. And I think that's a very important aspect, that our people get out and work in the community, outside of our community more. And that's the only way people will get to know us and understand us, once they become more involved with us.
I think leadership for women is that balance, it's that harmony. If a woman has the abilities, the capabilities of being a leader, either in public life or private life or whatever, those leadership qualities are there for a purpose. And if a woman has it, if she has those kinds of things, if she has the insight, the depth, and all the other kinds of things that make a leader, then it is her responsibility to exercise that.
Well, I think most of us neglect our parents and older people and feel that, well, they're not as valuable, I've got my own thing to do. And I think they have devoted so much time to us in our youth and us growing up that I think we need to share some of the time that we have with them. We're not going to be long on this earth, any of us, and I think those times together are important. And I begin to realize that our time is really ticking away on the world's clock. And I began to ask my mother to come along with me on trips, and she's been able to do it because she's had enough finances to go along on trips. And here she is at an Assembly of First Nations meetings, attending and getting involved. She was involved in the march in Ottawa, where we carried signs and placards and marched for Aboriginal rights. And I remember my sister saying, "What have you done with Mom? I hear she's out demonstrating." And I don't know about my mother, but the feeling that I had when we were marching there and the unity that was there of those people, the sense of purpose was tremendous. Here we were marching for our rights, for Aboriginal rights, meeting with politicians, meeting with heads of, I guess, the highest recognized governments of this land. And here we are talking about our rights and being a part of it. And I remember the first conference that we went to, first rally, it was in November, it was icy cold out there, but we were all marching and holding up the traffic in Ottawa. You remember that?
Yes.
It was the best part of it.
In 1981, the first committee got together with an idea of building an arena, which is a long, like I said, 20-year try. And their first feasibility study was turned down because we didn't have the know-how, and we ran into a few people along the way who tried to discourage us as we weren't capable of running a sports complex. We went back to them a second time and tried the same approach, and it still didn't work. And our chief, our committee got a little perturbed, so we went over their heads. We went right straight to the ministry ourselves. We lobbied in Toronto. We were going to lobby in Ottawa if we had to. The chief says, if we lose our $250,000, we'll spend $20,000 and go lobby the streets of Toronto instead of. So we went over their heads, and we made them be heard, us be heard, you know, and that was a big part of it. I think the chief's lobbying part of it, which made the sports complex a success.
My biggest stepping stone would be playing hockey. And by playing sports has elevated me to a higher education, because along the way I've met friends, which is very important in life skills, and also being, I'm not trying to say playing sports will get you any place. It's just a matter of having a social output and get rid of your frustration, your fears, or whatever you may encounter after reserve, because it's, as I like to say, it's a hardball, big leagues out there. It's and it's a good learning experience for any Native person. Well, after I graduated, I went into engineering as a consultant. I think it's very important to have a resource person on reserve, technical oriented, because there's a lot of big words used by consultants which kind of take away the band's monies. And by having a technical person, you can reroute some of that money back to reserve, which is where it's needed.
I know who I am. A lot of people look for role models, and when I was growing up, there were very few role models that we'd had on the reserve. The role models that I had mainly came from my own family. I noticed that the educated Indians who completed their grade 12, went on to post-secondary studies, left the reserve. I've talked to other natives in Ontario and across Canada who tell me exactly the same thing, that their educated people are leaving their reserves. But what I find is that those educated people do come back to the reserve eventually. They may come back immediately, as I have, or they may come back after retirement. But even when they come back later in life after being retired and employed off the reserve for a number of years, they still can contribute.
Really, I've often told our Member of Parliament, he's telling us that, well, you people all want to be farmers. What you need to do is start turning over more of the marshlands, or you need to go out and just start everybody harvesting crops. And I said, we don't want to just be farmers. Some of us do, but some of us want to be businessmen. Some of us, I told them, want your job.
Basically, non-native society is individualistic and hierarchical, whereas all the things that you've seen here on Walpole Island are still run more or less on what could be called an old Indian way, a tribal basis, if you will, or national basis, in which it's the whole community, or at least a good segment of the community, that gets behind these projects and supports them.
One of their own goals was to obtain a building, and which would be a showplace for all the crafts work and their art. And they've also wanted to promote our cultural identity and have a place where we might be able to teach the crafts or to just teach our young people. And so we entered an agreement with Walpole Island Council for the use of this building, and there's been a lot of community effort in it. Part of it is this fireplace insert, which was all donated, and we had fundraising by the community. We like people to know a little bit about our heritage, and in order to do that, we have to talk to people as they are buying their articles, and we explain a little bit about the sweetgrass and a little bit about how it was made, or when you get into your black ash baskets, you know, there's a lot of work involved there, and that way, when people leave, they do know a little bit more about us as a people. So we are promoting our way of life as much as possible.
Walpole Industries is a mold and die-making industry, band-owned and operated by the Walpole Island Council. It's an honor that I am the first chairman of the industry. The program was started to help our own people. At the time of this period, 1981, we had about 50% or more unemployed on Walpole Island. The committees and all involved studied the whole picture. What can we do to help our own people?
My own personal introduction to Walpole Industries was when I was hired as the general manager back in June in 1983. We started by working on a new building. Hiring of personnel came a little later along the way. Getting equipment and trying to get new customers. We've had some success along the way. Well, the goal target which we set at the beginning was $150,000 worth of sales for our first year. I can tell you at the moment that we have shipped, in actual shipments, over $240,000 worth of tooling, and our end-of-year goal will be in excess of $400,000 worth of business. We're going to achieve this. We know this by the value of orders which we have in the shop at the moment. This is a highly technical industry. It's a specialized industry, very, very precise, high degrees of skill, and it's one of the things which is creating a lot of interest in Walpole Industries, because people haven't expected the Indian people to get into something so sophisticated. A machine shop by itself is interesting, but getting into tool and die, into the precision, into the standards which are expected, it's quite something by itself. And I'm sure a lot of people were saying, hey, they're not going to make it. They're not going to have this special expertise. Yes, they may have the machinery, they may have the equipment, but do they have the skills and the abilities? I'd just like to say now, yes, they do have the skills. I'm just delighted with the way these people are coming on. They're just doing a terrific job. The people on the island are very, very special. I'm just really enjoying my work for possibly the first time in my whole life.
I'm extremely proud of what I've accomplished in the last 15 or 16 years. I feel that I've done a lot of hard work and have accomplished a considerable amount. I've worked my way up through the system and presently with Lampton College in the capacity of a teaching master. With our training program prior to their employment with Walpole Industries, all the apprentices in the program here took a 40-week machine shop training program with myself and also Charles Jacobs as instructors. And one of the things we did emphasize to the people was their ability to think for themselves. We tried to really encourage that because we try to avoid coaching them as much as we could. We tried to give them some pride for themselves, self-esteem or whatever.
Well, I feel pretty happy because there ain't too many women in this kind of trade. So I don't know, it feels kind of good to start out something new. My father's pretty happy about it because I don't think there's too many men around here that can say that they've got a daughter for a mold maker. Before I took this training course and start working as a mold maker's apprentice, I just didn't do anything. Like, I didn't work or anything. And it's a complete change. Like, now I'm on my own, I'm supporting myself, and it just feels good, like, to know I can do it. And then being a woman, too, that's an even bigger step, like being in a man's trade. So I feel pretty good.
Well, as usual, we have to be looking for those little worms in here known as corn borer. Fortunately, we are blessed this year with not having too many of them. Our pollination seems to be excellent this year. And once again, we're hoping for a good production as we had in the past few years. I was fortunate to be able to start with this project in 1974. We started out with a couple of thousand acres. Today we have expanded to over 4,000. This particular project is probably one of the largest of its kind in Ontario. I would say that I'm very pleased to have had the opportunity to work this closely with the native people of Canada, particularly of the Walpole Island Reserve. We operate with all native help, financed by the council, and with not too much assistance in the nature of capital expenditures from the Department of Indian Affairs. I well remember when we started in 1974 that it was difficult to receive credit from the people with whom we were doing business. Today, we have the businesses coming to us and wanting to do business with us. And I'm speaking here of Bkejwanong Enterprise. This, I think, speaks very highly for the native people of Walpole Island. I was fortunate a few years ago to spend a couple of days on the Chicago Board of Trade trading floor. And in questioning some of the brokers there and the traders, they told us that if we were to dump our entire production of corn, 400,000 bushels, on the market in one day, Bkejwanong Enterprise could have a very substantial influence on the trading in the market in Chicago. That should indicate to you the size of this operation. I guess it's because of the love of the land, the satisfaction you get from putting in a crop and seeing it produce and harvesting it and successfully marketing that product. This probably is what keeps us at it. When this land is gone, there'll be no more. They're not making any of it any longer. And I think that one of the most important aspects of agriculture today is conservation methods. The native people seem to feel that the land was not here to be bartered and sold. It's to be farmed and to be utilized to the benefit of the people.
Walpole Island is situated 30 miles from Sarnia, Ontario, and about 60 miles as the crow flies from Detroit, Michigan. And we're situated on the St. Clair River. We have about 6 hunting lodges here, rented on a seasonal basis, where we secure dollars. They're worth something like $40,000 to $60,000 in rental per year to us. But more than that, they're providing 8 to 10 jobs for our people on each lodge. The other thing that they provide for us is, I guess, recognition for our community, because we've become world famous for the duck hunting marshes. Well, I guess originally it was a livelihood to our people. And it's probably one of the reasons why we were here, because all the other land was taken up in development for non-Indians, and this was the only thing left. And it was infested with mosquitoes and infested with just about every living creature, and some of them happened to be ducks. So, well, we started eating those ducks, and we started harvesting the fish, and we'd been doing it all along, but you know, we didn't know that was a business until somebody came from Europe and told us that it's a business, you know. They've had just about everyone hunting there, the industrialists from the Detroit area. Henry Ford is hunted there. Lee Iacocca, chairman of Chrysler Corporation, hunts there. Some of Jimmy Carter's staff when he was president. The hunting area is one of the finest in Ontario, and those people are recognizing it. We have people, doctors and lawyers come here. They have Indian guides, and to them that's a valuable part of, I guess, getting back to the wilds. So I think to us it's something that we recognize as important and it's valuable, and it's really a step back into the past where we hunted for our living as our primary food source. So I think it's got a rich past, and we want to preserve it. We're doing all we can. We allocate dollars from our band budget for that purpose, and really our hunting marshes are worth well into the millions of dollars for us and our community. And it gives us some freedom from federal funding. We're trying to push and maximize those dollars so that we can be more self-sufficient than we are today.
A lot of what I do comes from things that I see around me. Here on Walpole Island, we are surrounded by a lot of natural beauty. There are a lot of, the geese are very important in the spring and fall. There are a lot of ducks, swans. I spent a glorious day last spring and the spring before just spending that day with swans. And there was no one there but me, and thousands of swans, and it was just an incredible feeling. And the result of that was I did several Conte sketches then of these swans and the feelings that I had with them. Art encompasses a lot of things, and I feel that all of those things are culturally related. Culture in itself not only is an art form, a dance form, culture is the food that you eat, culture are the clothes that you wear, and these things have been a part of Indian people for years and years and centuries. And these different art forms have helped us as Indian people maintain our identity and who we are. A lot of it too, I feel, has been spiritual feelings that are within Indian people that keep us as Native people. There is something that is inside of us that says that we are Native and we are unique people, and that various art forms help to maintain that identity and that feeling of tradition. Circles are very important to Indian people because our lives go in circles. From the time we are born to the time that we die, our life is one continuous circle. The circle for Indian people is very important. It is the unity that we have that keeps us together as Indian people. And an art form is another of that. I use a lot of circles that are in my work to show that it is complete. I use the sun. For me, the sun is a very important thing. And it in itself is a circle form, and it's something that I use a lot, the sun shape. Other parts of my work, I encompass different things here. For example, this sketch of the Crane clan, which, by the way, is a clan. I am a member of the Crane clan, my family. And here is the sun again. And this bottom rock that they're standing on, as far as when I did the design, represents Mother Earth, because you can see the face and the bottom here, with the eyes and the nose and the mouth on the side. And I feel that's important again, is Mother Earth itself is something that is very important to our people, and something that is held in very high esteem, because the earth itself is a living thing. It also provides us with all the things that we need as Indian people to survive. We grow plants that provides natural plants as well as those that are planted. And it gives us all that we need to survive during our lifetime. And if we treat it well, it in turn will be good to us.
When you're out, say, in the marsh early in the morning and it's quiet and the only things making noise are the small waterfall, the ducks and then the frogs and whatever else, and it's so quiet and still that you can reach out and touch it, and all you can hear is life flowing around you. The entire life flow is surrounding you, and you can almost reach out and touch it. I wondered if I had gone back 200 years, what would I take with me? Well, I wouldn't need to take anything, because it would all be there. Why would I want to disturb that with something from today? And that's all you really need to take. So that sense of spirituality, people think that it's gone from many people, including the non-Indian. He can learn from the Indian. Many of these types of things lie dormant, but they can be reawakened. They're never lost. And that applies to everyone, really.
When the time comes, our brothers will seek to know the strength of our people. Our hearts will once again dance with the pride of long ago. Because the Great Spirit would have it, we will give freely, as we did in past times. In beauty, the circle will be complete.